Odyn, the All-Father, the Prime Designate, the big man himself. He gave us a hand in patch 9.1, getting rid of the Jailer's Eye, and when we got to his court in the Halls of Valor, he was of course furious at Helya. I mean, how dare she capture his val'kyr and turn them into Mossworn? The world had done Odyn wrong again. First, the dragon flights and that betrayal, and now this. Just what is poor Odyn to do? There's just one thing we forgot. Odyn's a total dickhead. Helya has major reasons to hate him, but he goes on like she's just some Saturday morning cartoon villain. And it's always like that with Odyn. I mean, if you turn up to the Halls of Valor with Xal'atath and you do a dialogue option that pisses him off a little bit, he throws a temper tantrum and kills you. Or, that time we go on a series of trials to prove ourselves worthy of the Aegis, only for him to sort of forget about that and then set us up with a whole new set of trials to become his champion. We were trying to save his life, and what did he do? He demanded that we prove ourselves worthy of saving his life. I mean, he can't even make a deal with the shadowy figures of the Shadowlands without having his eye be turned into a big torture device that, maybe ended up helping the entire plan of Zovaal and massively influencing the Warcraft lore. So look, you may have gotten your legendaries from a Val'kyr emissary chest, or even got the Stormwing mount, and you might have thought, that Odyn's a cool guy. Today, you're gonna learn he was a bit of a total dickhead. I mean, hell, Helya even locked him up using Dashlane, today's sponsor, where if you go to dashlane.com/Bellular, you'll get to A, try it for free, and B, get 10% off with the promo code Bellular. Now, why do you want to do that? Easy. Dashlane makes your life better and easier by generating and autofilling passwords and personal info through its browser extensions. And that means, Nirvana, you never have to manually type in a password again. You never forget them. It even works in your phone, giving you great security and convenience. And all of the information is locally decrypted using your master password. And that means that even if Dashlane servers were hacked, it would be like breaking into the bank but finding out, oh dear, the bank doesn't actually have the key to the vault. They've also got awesome tools like dark web monitoring, VPN, and if you use a site and that site gets hacked, which compromises your personal password, they'll send you a security alert so that you're aware. So stop filling in your personal info manually and using unsafe hackable passwords, and try Dashlane for free on your first device at dashlane.com/Bellular. You get all that great stuff in one app across all platforms, and if you follow that link and use the promo code Bellular, you'll get 10% off. I've been using them for years, our team uses them, they're awesome. Thanks to them for supporting, and let's get into the show. Alright, time to back up that rant-laden introduction and show you why the next time we bump into Odyn, the best thing we should do is just keep on walking. Or maybe get the guy some therapy. First, we need to go back to when Odyn actually seemed like a pretty solid dude, back when he was wrestling old gods into their prisons as a bit of a badass. When the Titans arrived in Azeroth, it was one of the first times they had to save a world soul that was pretty much full-on infested, at least the planet was. Now, this novel problem needed a novel solution, so Aenar and Agrimar hatched a plan to create Titan-forged armies from the flesh and soul of Azeroth. The first creations of the Forges were the Watchers, and the most powerful among them were the Titan Keepers. These Keepers fought titanic battles over a void-ravaged Azeroth, with the two most ferocious fighters being Tyr and Odyn. Another Keeper, and Odyn's adopted daughter, Helya, managed to lock the Elemental Lords within their plane, for she was a very powerful sorceress. This scuffle is even where Odyn got his beard, because his beard is not actually a beard. It's the result of Ragnaros landing a real nasty hit on him. Now, those Keepers soon took command of the Titan-forged armies and fought Y'Shaarj's forces back to their temple city, and then, in what must have been the most incredible sight one could imagine, Aman'Thul reached down from the heavens and ripped Y'Shaarj out of the planet. Odyn was personally blessed with the power of Aman'Thul, and witnessing what Aman'Thul had just done, he must have thought himself the champion of the most powerful deity in the cosmos. Odyn then took command of the entire campaign, masterminding the capture of Yogg-Saron, and for his intelligence and his bravery, Odyn was made the prime designate of Azeroth, the ultimate protector of the Titans' plan. But much like with many generals in the real world's history who get a little bit of an ego problem, well, this ego elevation sowed the seed of Odyn's downfall. The Titan-forged heroes set up Ulduar and settled in for their long watch. Timelines are a bit fuzzy here, but it's thought that about 1,000 years after the last old god was imprisoned, Azeroth came under threat from Galakrond. This proto-drake had grown absolutely massive after mysteriously developing a taste for its own kin. What's worse, Galakrond developed necromantic powers that he used to raise the corpses of his proto-drake victims. Quite a problem. This threat was so significant that the keeper Tyr hunted Galakrond, but Tyr was nearly killed in that attempt. 5 proto-drakes came to his rescue, and along with Tyr, they chased Galakrond to Dragonblight, lodged a big boulder down his throat, and finally killed him. His bones can even be seen to this very day. Tyr then retreated, with tales of the 5 proto-drakes' courage, and he asked the Titans to personally bless them, right? Charging the drakes with the defense of Azeroth and creating the dragonflights that we know today. Odyn was absolutely furious. He was the prime designate, and against his wishes, those dragons were blessed. Looking at his kin and their new dragon pets, Odyn knew that Azeroth was totally doomed and that he knew best. This is, of course, Odyn having a selfish reaction because, after all, he was top dog. He knew best. He was blessed by the big badass who ripped an old god out of the planet. He could do better, he decided, and so he rage quit from Ulduar, literally launching his wing of the mega facility up into the sky, creating the Halls of Val'kyr. Yes, Odyn basically just rage quit and G quit. That's what he did. Yes, Odyn rage quit, but he still wanted to protect Azeroth. He just thought he knew best. So he ended up hatching this plan. And the first part of his plan involved him making a deal with a shadowy spirit that we now know was Muzala, trading his eye, his literal eye, in return for the ability to peer into the Shadowlands. Now, this was, of course, something that Zovaal and Team Jailer were all pretty happy about. And if you listen to our most recent episode of the Lore Walking podcast over on Patreon, and you know some of our Galakrond speculations because of all that weird necromantic stuff, what if Galakrond was plan A and this whole thing with Odyn in the eye was actually Team Jailer doing a plan B? Anyway, Odyn made the deal, and what he saw amazed him. In particular, the Kyrians, who ferried the souls of the dead to the afterlife. And this got Odyn thinking. He could have his very own Kyrians, val'kyr, as they would be called, to ferry dead warriors to the halls of Valor. So, Odyn promised the Vrykul that if they died in a glorious, glorious battle, that they would go to his feasting halls as the val'kyr, his big immortal army. Ironically, Odyn's entire plan hinged on the old god's curse of flesh existing, as he needed the Vrykul to be mortal before he could promote them or promise them this afterlife of immortality. So that's a bit funny. Now, the only other problem was that he actually needed some val'kyr to do this job, and nobody was willing. This is where we see Odyn move from just being a man-child who thinks he knows best to being genuinely a nasty piece of shit. So, he was so strong in his belief that the val'kyr were better defenders of Azeroth than the dragons that when Helya objected to Odyn's whole plan, basically telling him the whole thing was mad and selfish, he just twisted her into the first val'kyr, completely against her will. This pretty much damned Helya to an eternity of serving Odin's mad plan. Now, Helya did her job, recruiting val'kyr, and quickly, yes, she stalked the halls of Valor with an army of val'kyr ready to defend Azeroth at a moment's notice. But wait, where was this big army all the times we needed help, like the first and second invasion of the Legion, or maybe the Orcs? Well, Loken, of course, turned against the other Titan Watchers, effectively ending their stewardship over Azeroth. Now, he was smart because he knew of Helya's bad blood, so he convinced her to use the same magic she used to lock away the Elemental Lords to trap Odyn and his army in the halls. Ever wondered why Odyn has always looked so bored? He's literally been stuck up there for many thousands of years. Of course, we would be the ones to help break his boredom. Alright, that's historically why Odyn is a bit of a dickhead, because make no mistake, what he did to Helya was genuinely a terrible thing to do and a pretty damning example of Odyn's character. But he's messed with us as well, and for such a glorious figure, Odyn is incredibly childish and could be a bit more pragmatic. I mean, in Legion, we went to Stormheim to find the Aegis of Agrimar, something we direly needed to prevent the whole, big Legion invasion, and that Odyn had. And the whole zone was Odyn trialing us to find out, who was the most worthy, and if we were the most worthy to possess it. And it was a race between us and the Tidescorn very cool leader, Skovald. But of course, Skovald wasn't really honouring Odin's traditions. Skovald had sided with the Legion. And literally the only reason that we actually got the Aegis of Agrimar was because we just won the race against Skovald. We got there first. Pretty risky, Odyn. I mean, Odyn, were you kind of willing to give the Legion, to let the Legion get the Aegis just because we needed to go through the full testing process? I mean, sure, the Aegis really does have to go to somebody who is worthy, but, I mean, come on, given the circumstances, could we not, Odyn, have been a little bit more pragmatic? And, hey, we're Azeroth's most storied champions. I mean, surely we're not that risky. Now, of course, it's Odyn. The trials never end, for we had to fight Heimdall, we had to fight Hirja, and Fenrir to get the Aegis. And with that done, Odyn says that we're worthy, that the Aegis is ours. We take it. But of course, Skovald arrives. Now, it's too late for Skovald's protest, so we've got to kill him. But hey, we've passed the trials, we've got the Aegis, job done. Just that even though Odyn literally just said to us, to the victor goes the spoils, the Aegis of Agrimar is yours for the taking, this fight is just for his personal amusement, because if he defeats the players, he says, I feel invigorated. Care to try again, champions? It's like, okay there, Odyn, okay. We're kind of fighting the Legion, though. They're sort of trying to destroy the world, and the less turned into mincemeat we are by you, the better. But surely, after all of this, we're worthy, right? Finally, Odyn decides it's time to take out Helya, but before that, we've got to prove ourselves, yet again, by fighting Odyn, again. We're literally there trying to free him, and he's worried if we're worthy of doing so. Okay, Odyn, cool test, bro. Just want to say that strategically, if our job is to kill Helya, maybe having us do a hard fight against you and, wasting all of our energy and maybe us taking a few, wounds, maybe that's not the best strategic decision there, big man. Now, during the Balance of Power quest chain, when, we're souping up our artifacts, Odyn demanded that we prepare him a feast before blessing our weapon. We had to scrap the adamantium scales off Dargul to make the plates and cups. We set Odyn the feast, and then we have to do a load of trials for him. I mean, we really were starting to feel like entertainment more than anything else for the man, but hey, it's good to know that while we're there trying to save our world, partially from the woman that Odyn abused, he just thinks it's cool to have some fights, have some bants, and a big nice feast. Of course, Odyn's arrogance and maybe even some paranoia get him into all sorts of sticky situations, because when everything is settled in Stormheim, we set the Tidescorn up with a new leader, Sigrun, who is the daughter of Skovald, who had been an outcast for her whole life. When she was a child, assassins murdered her mother, and she assumed the rest of her family. So she lived in exile until it was time to lead the Tidescorn away from evil. Until it's revealed that it was actually Odyn who sent the assassins to kill Skovald's family. Why? Well, because he was afraid his descendants would hand the val'kyr over to the Legion. Remember when Odyn focused more on trialing us for the Aegis than he did stopping Skovald? I mean, bit of a funny lad. And his plans, this one obviously had a little bit of a backfire. So too did his whole Helya thing. It would be nice if we, for just a little bit, wouldn't have to clean up Odyn's mess. Because seriously, Helya's been a real thorn in our side for a long time, and she's Odyn's fault. We could say that Odyn was right in the long run, couldn't we? The dragonflights were all, in a bit of their own way, corrupted or twisted away from their path. Helya was so venomous it could overshadow the terrible things that happened to her that led her to the place she's at now. Odyn probably didn't want the val'kyr to join the Legion. But that view only holds up in a grand narrative way. On a personal level, there's no way Odyn could have known things would have turned out the way that they did. He was so blind and powerless to do anything for 15,000 years, kind of invalidating the whole val'kyr process. Think about how useful Odyn would have been during the madness of Loken, or the Great Sundering, or against the Lich King. But no, the thing with Odyn is, he got himself wrapped up in psychodramas with evil spirits, and was so preoccupied with his grand vision to realize the truly evil act that was creating the val'kyr against their will. And that's what's led us all into a very unfortunate situation. All in, we prove ourselves 3 times in Stormheim, twice in the Halls of Valor, then against Skovald, twice against Odyn himself, and then we had to save his life, set him a feast, then prove ourselves again. And 4 years later, us and our allies would just find ourselves getting pummeled by the Jailer's Eye, which of course was actually the eye that Odyn traded to Muzala. Because, of course, Odyn was too self-absorbed to realize that handing over his literal actual eye to a very clearly evil-feeling spirit from the Shadowlands, that was a bad idea. Oh, and remember that thing where he hated the dragon idea so much, the creation of the dragonflights? That's a bit funny, considering that Odyn has a dragon he can fly around, and the dragons have become a very large part of his people's culture. So, you know what, Odyn? Those dragons haven't been so bad for you and your mates. Maybe an apology is due. Oh, yeah. Also, what if that whole trade with his eye kind of let the Jailer see into Azeroth? And what if it turns out that whole Galakron necromantic dragon consuming the planet thing, what if that was a plan of the Jailer? And maybe the Jailer's next plan or next response was to have his top man Muzala do this thing with Odyn, so that maybe, maybe that Zovaal could get the Eye of Odyn and use it as a tool within the Maw, but then maybe also see a little bit out from Odyn. Who knows? Maybe it turns out that Odyn unwittingly has been an enemy spy for thousands of years or something. Okay, maybe not literally, because Helya did seal him up there, but you get my point, right? He's almost certainly been a part of the Jailer's plan for a stupidly long amount of time, and all because he was completely blinded with his own arrogance. Look, if I've proven myself against Illidan, Arthas, Deathwing, Garrosh, Archimonde, Argus, and Azoth, and, now having a crack at the Jailer, I don't think I need Odyn's recognition anymore. So who knows? Maybe someone will finally tell Odyn he's a bit of a knob and has to learn how to be decent to people. Maybe that'll happen. Till then, I thought this was a fun video to do. Because, yeah, you can say good things about Odyn, but he's a bit of a dickhead, and I think this is a more fun and animated way to explore Odyn's history than just sort of dryly giving it to you. Plus, seriously, I think it's so easy to get caught up in, oh, look, it's Odyn! Odyn! Like that one we've got in the real mythology. He's so cool that you can kind of forget how the character is actually written. because Blizzard do write him like a total asshole. And I actually think that's really quite fun. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that dive into Odyn. It's very easy to just be like, oh, look, it's Odyn, like that one in the myth. He's so cool. But Blizzard actually write him like a total asshole. And they do that on purpose. It's a fun part of his character, right? It's cool to have a character like Odyn actually just be a total arrogant knobend than him just being some, boring good paragon of the Titans. This is so much more fun. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in like Galakron stuff, totally hit up the Patreon. Lore Walking Episode 4, it'll be right up your alley. And hey, while you're there, there's the opportunity for some neat loot. So that's it for me. Take care. I'll see you next time.